Pretty much from like 18 to like 25 is probably the weirdest time in a person's life. And I would honestly say probably the time when most people get depressed and they don't even know why. I remember when I graduated college at 21, and I remember just feeling so lost. I felt like I picked maybe the wrong major. I didn't know what I was going to do with my major. And I'm somebody who 2 weeks out of graduation, I started a new job, an impressive job at DC for a lot of money. And I was just miserable. I was so unhappy. I couldn't see myself going into this cubicle every single day for the rest of my life. I didn't know what to do. I was looking at maybe going back to school, but I was like, my parents already spent so much money on this degree. I can't go back to school. It's too late for me. And I just remember looking at people I graduated with who majored in like engineering or medicine, and the next like decade of their life was kind of already planned out for them because of their major. Or I looked at people who were in the military and they were already starting their families. And I just would look at myself and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing in life. I don't know how I'm going to be okay. Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Melissa and I'm a nursing student. Before I get any farther into this video though, I do want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video. This video is in partnership with my absolute favorite jewelry brand, which is Luisa. I have been working with them for some time now and I absolutely love their jewelry. They were kind enough to send me 3 pieces recently, and I'll go ahead and show you those pieces. So I have this beautiful, beautiful mood ring. I love this mood ring because when I was a little girl growing up, anytime I went on vacation with my parents, especially to the beach, mood rings were very much a thing. Anybody who, I think like 90s babies, even early 2000s babies, I don't know if mood rings ever went out of style, but Luisa does have a more sophisticated mood ring on their website. They have it in both gold and silver. They sent me the gold mood ring. They also sent me another ring. This ring is not a mood ring. It is a gold ring that has a green accent, and I think that it is perfect for the holidays. It's like a nice holiday green, and I will probably be wearing this on Christmas. I have earrings that match the kind of emerald color, and so I do plan on wearing that on Christmas Day. And then in addition to these 2 rings, they also sent me this gorgeous gold necklace. The reason why I love Luisa, in addition to their beautiful timeless jewelry pieces, is the fact that they are a carbon neutral company. Everything from their jewelry even down to their packaging is carbon neutral and good for the environment. And like I always talk about, I love traveling and I like to take good care of my jewelry. So when I do travel, I like to recycle the packaging that Luisa's jewelry comes in, and I like to tuck away my engagement ring if I'm taking it with me, or my wedding band, or just any jewelry that I take with me on vacations. I like to travel using Luisa's packaging because it keeps my jewelry fresh and it's very durable. So if you like the pieces that I featured in this video that Luisa sent me, or if you want to explore their website and find jewelry pieces that match your personality and your style, I will go ahead and put a link to their website down in my description box below. I also put a discount code so that you can get a percentage off of your purchase. So thank you again so much to Luisa for partnering with me in this video. So normally my videos are related to nursing school, healthcare administration, or just healthcare in general, but today's video is going to be a bit different and more personal because I just turned 30. I'm very excited. I just had my 30th birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I'm very happy to be 30. I enjoyed my 20s. I feel like I got a lot out of my 20s. I really enjoyed my 20s. I got 2 degrees in my 20s. I bought my first home in my 20s. I met my husband, who I love so much, love of my life, and we got married in my 20s. I traveled. I went to different countries, different continents. Before I met my husband, I went out and I was outside a lot. And I feel like I just got to do a lot of really cool things and meet a lot of cool people and have a lot of very enriching experiences in my 20s. But I feel like I was just kind of ready to enter into the next phase of my life, which is my 30s. If you've not seen my previous videos, I'm a nursing student. This is my 3rd degree, just for any confusion, I'm going back to school to get my bachelor's degree in nursing and kind of change careers. And I graduate next year in 2024 while I'm 30, and I do want to have a family. My husband and I want to have kids if we're blessed with kids. And so I kind of am hoping that my 30s is just going to be a different phase in my life where I'm more focused on settling into my career, being done with school completely, starting a family, and I feel like I'm definitely ready for that next step. So I was just kind of sitting and reflecting, like right after my 30th birthday, just like on the next phase of my life and what I'm looking forward to in this next decade of my life. And then I started thinking about like my 20s and how much I enjoyed it. And I started thinking of all the lessons that I learned in my 20s. And so I thought that it'd be fun to film a video talking about all of the lessons that I learned in the last decade of my life in my 20s. I'm going to start off with the first and probably one of the most important lessons that I learned throughout the last decade in my 20s. And that lesson is, it is better to be at peace and be alone. And so I guess the full statement or the full sentence with that would be, it's better, in my opinion, to be at peace and to be alone than to be with somebody who does not care about you or respect you. I feel like this lesson sounds so simple, but it's one that had to literally get knocked into my head multiple times throughout my 20s before it finally stuck and I started living by it. So like when I've been in previous relationships that didn't serve me, I mean, I cannot tell you the amount of stress that I would go through chasing after these men who just frankly didn't respect me, didn't act like they cared about me. And instead of just cutting the cord and disconnecting myself or breaking up with them, I just held on for dear life, and it caused so much turmoil in my life and so much stress in my life that was just not necessary. And I feel like the thought of heartbreak, at least for me, was like 10 times worse than the actual heartbreak itself. Like anytime that I went through heartbreak and I ended up single, yeah, it hurt initially. Yeah, I felt lonely initially. But when I think of the times in my 20s, like when I was going through a heartbreak, I really did pour into myself because yeah, you feel lonely and depressed initially. It's kind of like cutting off the cord, or almost like cutting off an addiction in some ways if you were in a relationship that really doesn't serve you and it's to the point where it's toxic. After you go through that kind of initial withdrawal, I've always like focused on myself. So when I was single in my 20s, the periods of time when I was single, I remember I took up gardening and I found a lot of peace in that. I remember once I took up like a pottery class, like actually I signed up with like a recreation center near me and I got to do like the spinning wheel pottery. And so twice a week, just by myself, there were all of these like middle-aged and senior women, and I would just go by myself and I would go and do pottery and talk to them about their life. And it was just peaceful, if I could describe it in one word. And I'm sure that I did feel lonely at times, of course, especially if, you know, you go from having a long-term committed relationship where that person is your everything to then not talking to them at all, not seeing them at all. Even if you are traveling and hanging out with friends and having hobbies, you're going to experience periods of loneliness even throughout the piece. But I do remember whenever that would happen, I would just like schedule myself a cry session, or I would schedule myself a night in to order takeout and like watch a rom-com and just to be by myself. And again, I feel like focusing on myself and having pockets of loneliness was so much more peaceful and so much better for my health than to be chasing after some guy who did not care about me and did not respect me. And just going through the stress from that was just not worth it. So the second lesson that I learned in my 20s kind of ties into the first one in some ways, but I learned how to enjoy my own company. It's funny, when I was growing up, like as a kid, my mom would always tell me that. She was like, you can never learn to be happy, or you can never be happy if you do not learn to enjoy your own company. And that's something that her father would tell her. And as a kid, I kind of understood her, but I didn't really understand. And now in my 20s, I feel like I really learned what that saying is, and I learned how to practice it. And essentially, if you are looking for validation, you're looking for company from other people, you're never going to be able to be happy from within. You have to really learn how to enjoy your own company and how to have fun by yourself. So I remember when I was like 20, 21, I had to go absolutely everywhere with my girlfriends or with my boyfriends at the time. I just couldn't be alone. I couldn't just like kind of sit and be by myself. I couldn't go out to places by myself. If I really wanted to go to something, I had to hit up a friend to go with me. If I couldn't find someone to go with me, I would just miss out on that experience. Because as a 20, 21-year-old, in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to go to this party by myself. I'm not going to go to this concert by myself, blah, blah, blah. Throughout my 20s, I eventually started going to restaurants by myself, going to the movie theater by myself. I've traveled to New York multiple times by myself. I've been to Indonesia, to Bali. I traveled by myself. Once I got there, I met up with the volunteer group, but actually it was like almost 24 hours of travel, and I went to South Korea and I made all these different stops. I did all of that 100% by myself. And by then I think I was like 24, 25. And there's no way that I would have done that at 20, 21. There's no way I would have went to the movies by myself. There's no way I would have went out to eat by myself. And now I can do that regularly without feeling anxious. And I understand, especially as a woman, especially like at night, there's certain settings where you should not go by yourself. But as long as you're smart about it and safe about it, my viewpoint now that I'm 30, that I didn't have in my early 20s is I don't want to miss out on something that I really want to do or something that I really want to experience just because I can't find somebody to go with me. So now I'm okay going out and doing things by myself, or if everyone is kind of out doing things with each other, if everyone's kind of coupled up, if my husband's busy, I'm also okay staying home and watching a movie or just having fun alone by myself. I feel like I've genuinely learned how to enjoy my own company and to be okay with being alone. So the third lesson I've learned in my 20s was half of life is just showing up. So I actually looked this saying up, and apparently there are different variations of this saying. The reason why I know it is because somebody that I used to know would always say this to me. And I feel like, again, it was one of those things where when I first heard it, I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But throughout my 20s, I really do feel like I kind of embodied that saying, and I fully understand what it has meant. Life can get hard no matter how cushiony your life is. For all of us, life can get hard. You can get depressed or anxious. And at least for me, sometimes anxiety can get so crippling that I don't even want to get up and do things that I have to do. So like getting up and going to school, getting up and going to work, even things that I do on a daily basis or on a regular basis. Sometimes when I get really anxious or get in my moods or my episodes, even doing those things can be hard. Or like when a friend invites me out to go to a party or do something that I maybe don't feel like doing, I've learned the hardest part is just getting myself there. Like literally just getting up and going to this event, getting up and going to work. And then once I'm there, I feel like the hardest part is over. Like literally the hardest part, I guess, is mentally just kind of forcing yourself to go to these things. And then once you're there, 9 times out of 10, it's never, at least for me, it's never been as bad as I was anticipating it to be or as my anxiety was telling me that it would be. And then on a deeper level, if you have maybe a loved one or a close friend that's going through something, maybe like they have a death or they're going through a hard time in their life and you have absolutely no idea what to say or how to be there for them, most of the time, just you going to their event or just being present physically in their life is more than enough for them. Okay, so the next lesson that my 20s taught me, I feel like I keep saying like, this lesson is the most important, this lesson is the most important. This next lesson is don't compare. Do not compare yourself to others. And as simple as this sounds, I feel like if I could go back in time to a decade ago, to myself turning 20, if I could go back in time and have a conversation with myself and tell myself one piece of advice, this would be the one thing that I would tell my former self. And that's just because I feel like this really isn't talked about enough. I feel like your early 20s are probably the weirdest time in a person's life. Like pretty much from like 18 to like 25 is probably the weirdest time in a person's life. And I would honestly say probably the time when most people get depressed and they don't even know why. And so I feel like this is a really weird time in most people's lives, especially like right after you graduate high school, because up until then, everyone in your life, all of your friends and everything, pretty much they're following the same schedule of they wake up, they go to school all day, maybe after school they'll have like sports or a job, you're all dating each other, everyone's kind of like in the same place in life. Once you graduate high school, especially depending on like what area you live in, what environment you're in, it can kind of feel like people are going off into a million different directions and living completely separate lives. And I feel like this is hard because like right after you graduate high school, the people you're used to seeing every single day at school, you're not seeing them every day anymore. And so now you either have to make an effort to see people and like go out of your way to see people because you're not in the same environment every day. And that kind of, you know, sometimes you can learn that you were only friends with people because you were in the same environment as them. For those of you guys that are going off to college and so you're in college, that experience may just be kind of prolonged. Once you graduate from college, the crew that you hung out with in college, especially if you lived on campus, you're not seeing them every day. Some people may be living in different states, and so you have to go way out of your way to make sure that you keep in touch with these people. And sometimes you learn you were only friends with these people because you were in the same environment. And I feel like that can be really hard to accept if you thought that these were like going to be your friends for life. And then another thing, more importantly, about this really weird time is that, you know, some people right after high school, they go off and they join the military and they start making a decent amount of money. They have a stable job, they have benefits. A lot of people in the military, for all of those reasons, kind of start to get married and have kids earlier. So for people that kind of go the military route, it's not uncommon to have a spouse or an ex-spouse and a couple of kids by the time you're in your early 20s. And then you look at people who right after high school, maybe they went to trade school. They also probably started living life sooner, living on their own, making money and just kind of experiencing life sooner than maybe somebody who right after high school, they went to college. And so I feel like if you go to college, that kind of prolongs your childhood in a sense, where you are in this structured environment where you're kind of in the same setting, seeing the same people every day. And so once you graduate at like 20, 21, 22, you're kind of looking around and there are people who have been living life and starting their families, and now you just graduated with this degree. Maybe you're regretting the degree that you got, and you're kind of trying to figure out life when it seems like people around you have life figured out. If you're in your early 20s and you didn't go to trade school, you didn't do the military, you didn't go to college, maybe you are watching this video in your early 20s and you are living at home with your parents and you're not sure what you want to do with your life yet. You're looking all around, especially at social media, and you're seeing people starting careers and getting degrees and making money and starting families. It could just make you feel stuck. Or maybe you did go the military route, or you did go the trade school route, and you kind of started being an adult sooner than some of your counterparts. You could be looking at all the responsibilities that you have, and then looking at your peers that don't have as much responsibility and kind of envious that their life seems more carefree and less stressful than yours. And I feel like you should never compare yourself to others, but especially if you were in that weird window of your early 20s where it seems like everybody around you is just kind of doing something different. I feel like comparing yourself is just, you're just opening up yourself for failure if you're going to compare yourself. And then another thing about comparing yourself is people lie. Some people do get on social media and talk about their problems, but the average person is not getting on social media and airing out their dirty laundry and talking about their financial problems and their emotional struggles and their relationship problems. So if you're going onto social media and you're comparing your reality to someone else's filtered reality or their highlight reel of their life, again, you're setting yourself up for failure and for depression. I remember when I graduated college at 21, and I remember just feeling so lost. I felt like I picked maybe the wrong major. I didn't know what I was going to do with my major, and I'm somebody who 2 weeks out of graduation, I started a new job, an impressive job at DC for a lot of money, and I was just miserable. I was so unhappy. I couldn't see myself going into this cubicle every single day for the rest of my life. I didn't know what to do. I was looking at maybe going back to school, but I was like, my parents already spent so much money on this degree. I can't go back to school. It's too late for me. And I just remember looking at people I graduated with who majored in like engineering or medicine, and the next like decade of their life was kind of already planned out for them because of their major. Or I looked at people who were in the military and they were already starting their families, and I just would look at myself and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing in life. I don't know how I'm going to be okay. And so I kind of wish I could go back and tell myself, don't look at what anyone else is doing. Don't compare yourself. Everything for you is going to work out the way that it's supposed to be. You just have to give it time. So the next lesson that I learned in my 20s is friendships are really not that serious. Now, when I say this, don't get me wrong. I don't mean friendships are not that serious and you shouldn't take your friendships seriously. I know that friends, for a lot of us, friends can be like family, especially if we don't come from a very healthy home life. What I mean by it's not that serious is that it doesn't need to be so dramatic. I feel like my view on friends and friendships and my expectations on friendships are completely different now at 30 than they were a decade ago or throughout a decent chunk of my 20s. And I really wish I had the mindset of friendships back then that I have now, because I cannot tell you how many friendships I have ended, or people have ended friendships with me, or friendships I've seen end because somebody missed a birthday party or somebody missed a freaking housewarming party, or because somebody didn't respond to text messages for like over a week. I feel like at least for me, I had such high expectations on friendships and what friendship meant. And the people around me, the girls around me, had such high expectations that were honestly impossible for the average person to meet. And then when our friends didn't meet those expectations, we would cut them off or we'd get into this big dramatic fight. And now at 30, I realize that it's really not that serious. And there's so many minuscule issues that I've ended friendships over, where if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have taken it that seriously. So like, for one thing, I feel like I've learned that there are different types of friends. They're going to be your party friends, especially in your 20s. I stayed outside in my early 20s. There were people who were my party friends. If I'm going to a club, if I'm going out of town on vacation to have some fun, those are the people that I would hit up to have a good time. And then there are like my confidants, people that I tell my business to, I tell my worries and my concerns about. They're like my sisters, people who I expect to be there for me in time of need, and people who, if they need me, I would drop everything and go be by their side. And it's okay if your confidants and your sisters are not people that you party with. And it's okay if your party friends are not your confidants. And I feel like there were times where I had my party friends and I would take it personal if they were not there for me in my time of need, instead of just accepting these are people that I'm cool with to have a good time with. I should not have these high expectations for them to be there when I am feeling sad, or to be there when I'm having like a life event happening. And then contrary to that, if you have somebody who is a close confidant and you tell them your secrets and you're there for them in their time of need, if they are not able to make it to a birthday party or they're not able to make it to the club to party with you or celebrate something with you, in my opinion, now that I'm 30, that's not a reason to cut off a friendship with them. Like, I remember being in my early 20s, it was so common for friendships, like female friendships around me, to end because somebody missed a birthday party. And now at 30, the thought of that just seems so ridiculous to me. And another thing about friendships, probably my last thing on friendships, is that friendship dynamics change, and that's okay. And that's not something that I knew in like my early mid 20s. So there are going to be people, friends in your life, where maybe there's like a 6-month period in time or a 2-year period in time where you're really close to one friend, and maybe there's another friend you only talk to a few times a year, especially if they don't live close to you. Depending on what you guys are going through in life At some point that can change. The friend that you only talk to a couple times a year, that could then become a friend that you talk to every day. And when the friend that you talk to every day, that could then become somebody that you only maybe catch up with once or twice a year. That is totally normal. I've learned that's totally normal. The next lesson that I learned in my 20s is to start saving money in your 20s. It is so important. The financial decisions that you make in your 20s will honestly set you up for the rest of your life. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. If you're watching this and maybe you're no longer in your 30s or you're approaching the end of your 30s and you didn't make smart financial decisions, it's never too late. But for those of you guys who are watching this video, maybe in your early 20s, you're trying to get something out of it, start saving, investing, and learning about finances now opposed to waiting till later. I promise you will thank me for this advice. So I bought my first house at 26. I got married and my husband and I, we bought our property together, but I saved my money and we bought our first house. I was 26. That home is the biggest blessing and the biggest asset that I could have ever asked for. So right now, if you've seen my previous videos, you know my husband and I right now, we are renting out our townhome. So we're property managers, we have a tenant. So every month we are making money on it and it is passive income for us. But in the future, if we want to keep doing this is always going to be supplemental income in addition to our paychecks every month. Or in the future, when we have a family, if we decide that we want to have a big house, like live in a bigger home, we can always sell our townhouse, get the money that we make from the townhouse, and put a big down payment on our permanent residence with our kids. So no matter what we choose to do with this house was an asset. You know, the money that we spent on a down payment for our townhouse, we could have easily used that money to take a few trips to Europe. We could have taken a few trips to Mexico and just had a lot of fun with that money. But instead, we focused on making investments in our financial future. And that really that's set up the tone for what our 30s and what our 40s are going to look like. So now the next lesson that I learned is how to love and care for my hair. And this is a really important lesson, really on a wider scale. Probably the bigger picture is that I really learned how to love myself. But for me, my hair has been such a big thing. Anybody watching this, if you have coily hair, kinky hair, if you're a black girl, you know hair is it's a thing for us. It's very much a thing. I have, for anyone that's interested in the hair texture and the hair care world community, I have 4C hair, which is the coiliest, coarsest hair that you can have. My hair is naturally an afro. And so for me growing up, even when I would see people with my skin tone, which was rare, in magazines, on TV, in movies, just in advertisements, the few times I would see somebody with skin as dark as mine, they either had on a wig or their hair was straight or they had relaxer. I really didn't grow up seeing people with my hair texture in media at all. And then when I would step out of the house with my natural hair, I would get made fun of. And I feel like my dog wants to be in the video. And so I feel like I did definitely develop a lot of insecurities around my hair. And for this reason, I grew up I got relaxer in my hair, which is a chemical to straighten my hair. For those of you guys that don't know, very bad for you. But I begged my mom to let me get a relaxer. She didn't want me to, but I begged her. I would just wear my hair straight. When the relaxer made all my hair fall out, then I would start wearing weaves and extensions. And I didn't learn how to actually care for my hair underneath. So right now my hair is in braids. I learned how to braid my hair. I literally did not know how to take care of myself. In my 20s is when I learned how to do my own braids. I learned how to corner. I learned how to do country plaits. I learned how to moisturize my hair and just take care of my hair. But growing up, I didn't know how to. So my mom would braid my hair and it would look pretty, but then I wouldn't moisturize my hair underneath. So every time I would take out the braids, because my hair was so just dry and brittle, it would break off. And so I wore weaves and extensions all throughout high school, all throughout college. I learned how to weave my own hair, but I really didn't know how to take care of my hair underneath. And so I would put tracks in my hair, and then of what was exposed of my real hair, not only did I not care for it, I would literally wake up every day in college and I would run a straightener through it. And no matter what texture hair you have, it's not good to put heat in your hair, extreme heat in your hair every single day. The curlier or the coilier your hair is, the worse it is for your hair. So you can imagine my hair was like breaking off in chunks. But I literally, from high school up until past college, I literally could not leave the house with my natural hair. Like I had to have either a wig or a weave on. If I didn't have either, I would have to like tie up my hair and put on a baseball cap, and like I was just ashamed of it. And like now at 30, now that I've learned to love myself, I've learned to love my hair, the thought of it makes me sad. And it sounds crazy that I would be embarrassed to wear my hair in its natural state. Like literally the way that my hair grows out of my head, I have no control over it. For me to actually be embarrassed to present that to the world, it's sad to admit, but that's how I spent the first half of my 20s. And so around the time that I started dating my husband, I think I was like 24 when I started dating my husband, my skin was breaking out horribly. I think I had weave from like AliExpress. I don't know if there was something in it, some chemical. My skin, I've never had like cystic acne. It practically gave me cystic acne. Like I look back on the photos, it was awful. And so I took that out of my hair, but anything I put in my hair, any extensions, any weaves, any wigs, would just make me break out. And so I kind of had to choose between my skin or my hair, and I chose my skin, and I'm so happy that I did. So I took out any extensions, any weaves, whatever, and I just had to wear my hair natural. And I had to go to work like that. I had to leave the house like that. I was dating my husband, and he knew nothing about black hair. And I had to learn how to stop apologizing for my hair texture and how to take care of my hair. I had to make sure it looked presentable since I was wearing it out. So I had to watch videos on how to style it. And then when I was watching videos on how to style it, then I started learning how to care for it. And I remember I used to never let my hair get wet because that would ruin my hairstyle. It turns out my hair texture, it needs to stay moist. So I started wetting my hair every day, moisturizing my hair every day, changing my products. I learned how to braid my hair. Like my braids that I did them myself. I always do my hair myself. And so in my 20s, I really learned how to accept myself, how to care for my hair. My whole life, I feel like my hair has just been falling out of my head because of all of the chemicals and all the heat that I've been using in it. And so in my 20s, when I really had to learn how to care for my hair, that's when my hair started growing. I think all throughout my childhood up until my early 20s, I don't think my hair was ever past like maybe like here. And so I was like, oh, my hair just can't grow. Now my hair, it's thin, so I usually have it braided. Now it's like down to here, and it's healthy for the first time in my life. And my husband loves my hair. I think that also helped me learn to love my hair. And it's been an experience, but it's an important lesson that I learned in my 20s. You have to learn how to love yourself. And unfortunately for some of us, because of society, that's harder, because we're told that maybe our hair or our skin or certain features are not beautiful. But you have to learn how to reject what society is telling you and to be happy with yourself and the way that you look and with what God gave you. This video is so long. I'm so sorry. The sun was up when I started filming, and now the sun has gone down, so I went ahead and turned on the lights. But anyway, we're almost done because I'm down to the last lesson that I learned in my 20s. So the last lesson that I learned in my 20s is to take care of my body. Just like the financial portion of learn to invest and save your money in your 20s because it'll set the pace for the rest of your life financially, the way that you take care of your body in your 20s really will set the tone for the rest of your life. So for me, in my 20s, it was important for me to familiarize myself with the gym, like to get a gym membership and to learn about different weights and how to use them, how to do cardio exercises, to eat right and eat healthy, to hydrate my body and drink enough water, to hydrate my skin, and to use not only moisturizers, but like invest in good moisturizers for my face and for my body, to drink in moderation and not to drink heavily. all of these things and the way that you take care of your body in your 20s, one, they build better habits for how you're going to keep treating yourself in your 30s and beyond. But also, I know people who are also turning 30 or who have recently turned 30, and I see them online that I went to high school with, and they look like they are turning 40. Whether that is genetics, obviously genetics plays a role, but I think what plays a bigger role is how you take care of your body, especially in your 20s. So if you are drinking heavily and you're not getting a lot of sleep, you're not eating well, you're not exercising, you're not hydrating, you're not moisturizing your skin, you're going to age, your skin's going to be dry, you're going to gain weight. I feel like learning how to take care of yourself in your 20s can just help you look better and feel better as you get older. So that is it. It's getting late. Like I said, the sun went down. That's it for all the lessons that I learned in my 20s. I am very excited for my 30s, and I hope that it is a good decade. My 20s were very beautiful. I had the best time in my 20s, and I'm really hoping that my 30s brings me the same joy and peace and life lessons that my 20s did. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you have not checked out Ana Luisa's website, please go ahead and click on my link down below. They have amazing jewelry pieces. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video.